Hi, everyone. I'm Doug Black at insideHPC, and welcome to our fifth annual pre-SC Supercomputing Conference panel discussion, looking ahead to next week's big SC conference in St. Louis. With me today to talk about some of the anticipated highlights, we have Lori Diachin of Livermore Lab, former project director of the Exascale computing project, and General Chair of SC25. We have Cristin Merrit, CMO of Alces Flight and Communications Chair of SC25. We have Dr. Earl Joseph, CEO of HPC AI industry analyst firm Hyperion Research, and Addison Snell, co-founder and CEO of Intersect 360 Research. So everyone, welcome.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks, Doug.
Great. So looking ahead at the conference next week, let's start with you, Lori. Tell us about the theme of this year's SC and how it reflects big things happening in the HPC community.
So the theme that we chose for SC25 is HPC Ignites. And I chose that theme for three reasons. It has components that I think are really important for our community, starting with sort of the fuel or the foundations of our community, which is our people and our technologies. And then there's the spark of innovation that we have as we're developing new algorithms, new hardware technologies, et cetera. And then the last is the flame or our passion for impact, particularly in real world applications. And so you'll see a lot of that reflected in this year's SC25 conference. Our HPC Ignites plenary panel is going to be around quantum computing this year. Our keynote is a digital futurist, Tom Koopoulos, who will be coming in and talking about the gigatrends that are shaping our digital future for the next several decades. And so I think that will be a lot of fun. And just, the technical program and the exhibit show floor are just as vibrant as ever, with a record number of exhibitors this year and a really strong technical program. So I'm really looking forward to the conference this year.
Okay. Now, how about you, Cristin? You're heavily involved in the conference as well. And I know you have some thoughts about this year's agenda. Share with us some of the highlights that you're looking forward to.
Oh, goodness. There has been a wonderful build from conferences past with the HPC Ignites theme. I think what's been great is that we've been looking at the real high levels, which I know Addison and Earl will speak to in terms of the trends. But then from a communications perspective, we've been able to really focus on what's happening on the ground with some of our bigger outreach stories. I think the most recent one about a supercomputer known as Prospero at Liverpool John Moores University, whose work in dinosaur locomotion, held by a bunch of paleontologists, is influencing, through supercomputing, work in robotics as well as work in human therapy in terms of basically what they call unstable ground. And those types of stories, the levels of outreach we've been able to do, not only from the larger levels of the AI and the quantum computing that so many in our field are very interested in, but we're getting right in there on the ground and seeing how that impact really hits home once that work is actually completed.
Okay, Earl, over to you. The Hyperion breakfast on Tuesday morning is always a highlight of SC. If you could give us a preview of some HPC AI market growth numbers, and maybe also share some thoughts on the theme of how technical computing sites are using AI.
Sure. So last year was an amazing growth year for HPC and AI combined. We look at AI for science, engineering, and the traditional technical computing realms. And last year, the overall market grew by 24%, which is larger than it's grown in any given year over the last 30 years. This year, the first half of the years are already growing at 22%. So we expect to see the same explosive growth. The other part that we'll be talking about a lot is what's going on in quantum computing, since that's the major theme of the conference, and also some updates on some recent AI studies we've done. There's been a lot of controversy in the industry about AI, meaning in the non-HPC, or I'll call it more enterprise world, there's been some reports where, AI has not been as successful. People have not reached the goals and objectives. So we recently completed a study of the ROI in using AI in technical computing. And we were actually shocked by the results. Bob Sorensen and our team will be presenting the details, but some of the highlights, 75% of the HPC sites, their AI projects met or exceeded goals by over 75%. So, we're talking a success factor that's higher than normal R&D and other programs, so just some phenomenal changes in the industry. The other thing that we found that was amazing is, the whole move from originally deep learning and, machine learning, moving then to large language models, now agentic AI. About 40% of HPC sites are already running agentic AI programs, so the motion there is just phenomenal. Things are happening in months as opposed to years. And so I think it's just amazing what's happening in the market right now.
Okay. And Addison, I know you have a focus on trends in AI supercomputers and the effect on the global HPC AI market. Share some thoughts in that area, please.
Well, yeah, echoing what Earl just said, we have seen a lot of growth in the use of high performance computing technologies, particularly with regard to AI, and a lot of budget growth, especially now in things like the neo clouds, or what we call AI focused clouds in our forecast, and a new category that's really emerged around national sovereign AI data centers, some of which is related to recent announcements from the United States Department of Energy with forthcoming AI for science supercomputers. I think when we look at the market size, that segmentation of what's AI, what's HPC, is it hyperscale, is it national sovereign, is it a cloud, or is it the on-premises HPC, blended HPC AI market? That really is what bears attention, because it's really that AI half that's been growing so much, and it's a lot more than half. And while I agree with Earl that we've seen a lot of market growth, in our numbers, it's been concentrated in the hyperscale and the neo cloud and the national sovereign AI data centers recently. And HPC AI, the on-premises portion, has been a stable market next to an explosive growth market. And in fact, this year, we're unfortunately seeing a decline in that on-premises portion, directly related to reduction in scientific grant and academic grant funding in the United States under the current administration for this year, which I think will rebound in future years. But there is a significant effect there. And as for the AI for science supercomputers for the Department of Energy, those we found to be in line with our forecast, but we're still looking for more details around whose budget is it, when does it get approved, when does it hit, where are they housed, how much is classified versus unclassified. So there's a lot more that we're still waiting to have come out on that. But AI for science and DOE, we're all for it. I think it's great, and we just want a little more details on it.
Okay, back to you, Laurie.
Mhm.
Please tell us about some of the new topics we can expect to see this year around this, quote, our digital future. Looking at the keynote, along with AI quantum and the art of HPC.
Yeah, so we have a number of talks, technical panels, et cetera, that are focused in on exactly these topics. So our digital future keynote is looking at the gigatrends that are shaping society, such as population dynamics, using AI and digital technologies in healthcare, et cetera. And we'll be talking a lot about that in the keynote presentation that he's giving. We are building on SC24's success. They had a nice program element called the Art of HPC, where they really looked at how digital creations and visualizations can change how we think about the topics that we care about in high performance computing. So we've expanded on that program element this year. We are having the poster gallery again with videos and animations, but we've augmented that with a curated panel of folks who are focused in on digital creation and an invited speaker. And so I think that really speaks to the spark of HPC Ignites, that creativity bullet. And then we've got a couple of new programs where we're reaching out to the community, and I think that will be really fun to talk about as well. Our SciNet program element, this is where we build the fastest network in the world for 1 week. And this year it's truly amazing. They have 800 gigabit native network coming into the St. Louis Convention Center, which will support over 13 terabits of network speed during the conference center. So we've got a number of research demonstrations planned around that network, which will be very exciting to see what the results are. And so to put that in perspective, Cristin did some research for me and found that you could stream basically 1 million 4K movies simultaneously using the SciNet network if you had that coming into your home. So there's just a lot of different program elements this year that I'm very excited about for SC25.
Okay. Now, Cristin, you're looking at new supercomputers announced in the US along with the call for the next Archer system in the UK. Tell us share some thoughts about the significance of this activity.
Yeah, from a global perspective, it's quite interesting because Addison and Earl both alluded to the fact that there are a lot of new computers coming into this space, especially AI specific supercomputers. And as I always tell people, you may not know this, but I actually live in the UK and I'm British, but I have my American accent from way back when I originally moved away from Texas. And what's really particularly interesting about the announcements of these larger scale systems is especially in the European market, and that's why I'm excited to be here for SC from that perspective, from that particular area of the world, is seeing how people are handling the power and cooling side of things, which is a really big deal when you live on a very small island like I do, and over in Europe where space is at a premium. The Archer system just being announced for those calls for proposal is a really big leap forward in UK science and technology. As we only have technically one national supercomputer, we have several tier 2 systems in Ireland and in the UK. And seeing how all of this plays out over the next year is going to be really interesting, not only for science at large, but also within our particular area of the world that we're living in. So that's really a big deal. So this is where I always do the thing and go, Addison, Earl, what are you seeing on that side of things? Because I'm always quite interesting. I'm coming from a very European perspective into my home market to see where things are growing. So that's where I'm fascinated most to see what's happening these days.
Yeah. Now, Earl, I know you have thoughts around big changes in the market in the development of AI factories and giga AI data centers.
Right. So, as far as Europe, it's amazing because Europe in the last, handful of months has gone from doing a number of AI factories to announcing gigafactories. And in many cases right now, we're hearing people talk about, instead of the performance or number of GPUs or CPUs, just how many watts or gigawatts their installation is going to be. And if I think back just a few years ago, and even currently in DOE, 25 to 50 megawatts was kind of the cap that everyone was talking about because of the cost and all the other issues. And now, a number of sites are talking about gigawatt factories. And NVIDIA is talking about having one cabinet that's a megawatt. So, what does a new data center looks like in a couple of years? Are you going to have 3 cabinets and that's your entire data center? Or, are you going to actually expand? And what we're seeing as far as the changes in budgets right now for AI, and again, this is from that ROI study that we're just completed, and we'll be announcing the details next week. The amount of spending on these systems is growing at a phenomenal rate. So the real answer here is people are buying more equipment, larger systems, and requiring a lot more electricity. And as Addison mentioned, there were 9 new DOE AI systems announced over the last couple of weeks, and it's amazing. And I agree with Addison. We're trying to figure out, is the budget there, or is it coming out of existing budgets? When will they be installed? Are these machines going to be used for, we track, the science technical computing side, or will some of them be used for things like payroll processing or healthcare processing? So we're trying to figure out all those questions and answers. But the world's changing right now, and it's changing at a very high rate. The ability to do AI and adding AI into HPC is a major factor. There's a lot of concerns because a lot of it's at the front end and back end still. It's not being incorporated into the core of many problems. The concern there is still trust, and, the accuracy of the results. Can you believe the results and so on? So there's got to be a lot of learning and a lot of changes to get there. But what we've really noticed is people believe they can get there. They believe AI can get to a new level of understanding and capability. So as opposed to saying it's a roadblock, it's more of a technology and a capability that people have to learn how to address and move with. And like I said, it is moving very fast. We're amazed because on a monthly basis, things are changing at a rate we used to see on a yearly basis.
Yes, the accelerated pace of change continues. And on power, we're hearing more and more talk about power plants, whether they're nuclear or natural gas, whatever they may be, but specifically dedicated to data centers. So it pulls that drain off the grid, power drain. Addison, you have thoughts about coming out of your HALO organization, that stands for HPC AI Leadership Organization.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the reasons, getting to Cristin's point, one of the reasons we have advisory committees that are separate in the different regions is we find that we have very different conversations around comments like power and cooling and sustainability in the United States versus Germany versus Singapore is really a different look at what that takes. And it's difficult, I think even impossible, to completely separate analysis of AI on a global scale from the geopolitical discussions right now. Not that as an analyst firm we're for or against any politician, but for example, one thing that we did was look at the Biden executive orders around AI that were revoked and replaced with Trump administration executive orders around AI and do a compare and contrast, right? What's the same and what's different? They're both actually pro AI. They're more similar than different, but how they talk about a path forward was very different. The Biden administration was a lot more about partnerships as a path forward. The Trump administration is a lot more America first as a path forward. Biden was a lot more about regulation and guardrails, and Trump was a lot more about removing barriers and build baby build and go faster. So it's and I'm not saying that one is right or wrong, but it does influence how the AI path continues to develop on a global scale, and we see it have repercussions in Asia, in Europe, and Cristin is exactly right on that we have to keep looking at these things. I think power and cooling is going to be a tremendous topic at SC this year. We're also looking at interconnects and the effects there. Today, the HPC AI world is still predominantly InfiniBand, which is now owned by NVIDIA, with a lot of NVLink, also NVIDIA, mixed in. But a lot of the AI direction that we hear is around Ethernet, with things like Ultra Ethernet Consortium and ESUN, which got announced at the AI Infra Summit. And I love that Lori mentioned quantum earlier. So did Cristin. I think if there weren't so much AI going on in the world, we would be talking a lot more about the promise of quantum right now. And I'm thrilled at how many power and cooling and interconnect and quantum companies are exhibiting at SC. It's going to keep us busy as analysts.
Going to mention exactly that we have a number of new exhibitors that are coming in, and they are coming in areas that are not as traditional, like the cooling technologies. We've had some of that in the past, but a lot more of that on the show floor this year. We will have the quantum junction again on the exhibit show floor. And so, yes, I'm excited to see what these different companies have to offer. And there's a lot of buzz around the exhibit show floor this year, just because it's a record number of exhibitors who will be there for us. Yeah, it's going to be great.
And to take off of Lori's point, and also to lead to what Addison talks to, it's these kind of wonderful, happy circumstances that often lead to these kind of broader collaborations, which is why SC is such an important conference that happens every year. You look at some of the work we did earlier on these outreach stories, and like the one on piezoelectricity, which are batteries that are made through contact, like physical contact. In Ireland, they use two systems in order to come up with the design and the implementation of these batteries, which are actually being built and rolled out in Ireland today. University of Limerick, I always mess up who is doing this. This is Sarah Guerin's work. And when we did a lot on that outreach side, it's those happy circumstances where she has an idea. She goes to her local system, which is iCheck. They connect them to a team in Luxembourg. And these types of wonderful builds happen. And those kind of accidents, really these happy accidents, are because of these large events, these large scale conferences such as SC. So as people are wandering the floor, especially like in the quantum junction area, you're going to see things that you've never seen before. And that's going to do that spark of idea that we very much hope people have when they're attending in St. Louis. And hopefully that means our future will actually help solve that power and cooling problem, which is very, very important in Europe right now.
I'd like to chip in one more topic if I can. I don't know if Doug's going to prompt it or not, but another issue that's gotten flagged by our HALO advisory committees and repeatedly in conversations through the industry is that I think our number one challenge as an industry right now is talent development and retention over time. Where do we get the next generation of talent? And that's related to something I care a lot about right now. I love the work that SC always does with the students, the student cluster competition. Spend some time with your future bosses while you're at SC. Go check out and support the students. But related to that, I love when we see this at other conferences around the calendar. I participated in the Latin America HPC conference this year, Carla 2025, which was held in the Caribbean for the first time this year in Kingston, Jamaica. They did a great job with the local students there, 2 participating local universities, 2 participating local high schools, the boys' school and the girls' school. You would have loved these students. I wanted to give internships to all of them. They were engaged. They were asking for mentorship. How do we develop our careers in this space? These schools right now are all really trying to recover because they've been devastated by Hurricane Melissa, which is the strongest Atlantic hurricane we have on record. I'm heartbroken for these students. So, as the one with a small company and no regulations in the way, we started organizing together with Scalac, a GoFundMe to help these schools who are trying to recover from Hurricane Melissa. And we're going to be talking about this at our reception at SC Monday afternoon, 3 to 5 p.m. at BLTs. Come find us there, and all of our social media. Do you have to? No, you don't have to. This is entirely optional. But if you believe in helping the next generation of students come into this space, I promise you they will pay you back in contributions, with some of them joining our industry in the years to come. So please join me in this. Go find it on my social media. Come ask me about it at Supercomputing. Thank you.
That's great stuff, Addison. Lori, back to you and somewhat related. Tell us about some of SC's support for host cities where the conference is located.
Yeah, I can talk about that. I can also talk about our student programs, which, as Addison said, is incredibly strong and a really important component for the SC conference. So this year we're hosting over 130 student volunteers, bringing them in and having them help out with the conference and attend the conference and get to know it. Addison mentioned the competitions that we have, the student cluster competition and the Indie SCC competition. So we have 8 teams that are coming on site for student cluster competition, where they bring in their own hardware and build a highly energy efficient cluster right there on the exhibit show floor. And folks should stop by and see that. But we're also supporting the largest number of Indie SCC teams. So 33 Indie SCC teams that use cloud resources through NSF Access to build an application and a cluster and get some experience with that. So we're really trying to build the next generation through these student programs at Supercomputing. In our local community, we're doing a lot of things. We started a new program called Community at SC25, where we reached out to the greater St. Louis area and we brought folks in for internship type experiences with our SciNet team. And so we have order 10 folks coming in from the local area. And then internationally, we're trying to bring in lots of different folks through the Illuminations Pavilion. And so we've got lots of different countries represented this year. So including, I was really excited to hear about Botswana is coming in and able to give a presentation at the Cynet Theater. And so there are lots of opportunities to interact with the broader HPC community at SC25. And also, I don't know if you can recall, last year at SC24, there was the HPC Around the World map where you put a sticker, like where you're from. So we've tried to build on that this year, or we have built on that this year. And it's going to be a really fun experience for people. I'm crazy excited about it, where you can scan your badge information into kiosks that we'll have around the convention center. It'll create a unique fractal for you, sort of generating the math and the algorithms behind fractal generation, the creativity of the art. And that'll place a dot on an electronic HPC Around the World screen that folks can interact with and see who else is attending the conference in their local area. So I think there's lots of fun ways that we try to build community through SC. The SC conference series, building year after year. And so those are some of the elements that I'm most excited about.
That's
and
great
to
outreach.
really even even more about stuff. This was also the year that the Early Career Program has
Yes.
actually done a lot of travel fellowships as well from people traveling in. It was global. It was around the world. It was joyful for me to push that out. And also the Illuminations Pavilion, that schedule has just gone up, and I will be pushing that out to the attendees as well, to go see these people, because many of them have traveled from very far away.
Mm-hmm.
And those kind of little outreach things, because a lot of people do talk about, the students. There is an early career program building. There is an international program building. My work through Women in HPC, the workshops coming back, that is very much based in giving people the opportunity to not only present technical research, but to talk about career development. And in fact, I was just sitting here thinking about Earl. One of the things that I remember talking about, that I believe some of your people have picked up on too, is really looking at that kind of skills gap development and trying to understand from like an analyst perspective where those gaps are and how they can potentially be broached. Although simply giving people the opportunity, SC gives people opportunities. These travel fellowships and things that we've really seen explode are to give people that chance to just get themselves out there. I just realized, like, Earl, we haven't heard from you. What do you have to say on this wonderful world of actual talent development? Because, we can talk straight over you. You've got, like, Lori and I will just blow everyone through.
Sure. So, over the last few years, or actually a decade and a half, we've been trying to track all the missing skill sets. And I agree with Addison and everyone else. The number one constraint in the industry is expertise and skills. We've got a real problem in the industry, and that is the smart folks and the people that are doing this work are all retiring out and getting very old and leaving the system. And the number of people coming into the system is dramatically smaller than that. The second part of it is the systems are getting more complex. When we used to talk about, adding GPUs to a system and making them complex, that was hard. But now adding AI and quantum computing into a system environment, the complexities are just massive. And then the third part you have is you have some very large organizations, the social media companies, the cloud providers, who are offering very high salaries. So the skill shortages are all over the place right now. And we actually try to do a mapping of, which ones are the most needed, which ones are, problematic by the different countries. We track roughly 28 countries and which ones have the biggest issues. And then what are the solutions? And we've been pushing the cloud providers and all the vendors is they have to make the systems easier to use. They have to come up with a lot of support, because we need to bring new people in. And most end users we talk to, they'd rather hire a scientist or engineer that's an expert in their domain, not an expert in computer science. So the desire on the end user side to hire a lot more people to make the computers work is evaporated. So it is one of those major constraints in the whole industry right now.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks everybody for a very thoughtful session. And it'll be great for everyone in the community to be together again next week in St. Louis. And we'll look forward to that. Thanks so much.